One of my favorite moments is Andrew was texting me. I guess he lives. I've never been to his house. I guess he lives like 3 minutes from Children's Hospital. So one night it was like 10:30 at the hospital, and he was like, "Hey, yeah, kind of how are you doing?" He's like, "Hey, I'm in the garage. If you want to sneak out and have a beer, like, let me know." I was like, "Oh, actually, that sounds amazing." It's 10:30. It's like, "Man, I can't make it. Thank you for the offer, but I'm gonna have to figure out how to sneak a cocktail in here." Like that, just like over text. And he just writes back, "Done." Like, all right, so go to bed. Wake up the next morning, like 10 o'clock the next day. Sitting there with Emerson, and Nikki had gone home to shower. And she walks into her room. She's like, "Hey, is Andrew in the lobby?" Andrew who? Like who? I don't know. She's like, "I feel like I know him. Like I think you should go check. He's got a bunch of stuff." And I'm like, "What?" And I walk out, and Andrew's there, and he's got the bag with a Christmas tree, then like a bag with vodka, bourbon, 2 bottles of wine, a 6-pack of beer, like hungry
a drink.
Yeah. hungry hippos. I'm like, dude, what? Like standard Andrew, like way over the top. But it was just like, that is awesome. He just like showed up in the lobby. Like, it was awesome. So cool.
That is awesome.
Welcome to the aggressive life. I got something for you different today. I know I say that all the time, but this is different again. You know, part of being aggressive is you try new things. You keep your mind open to new opportunities, and you just take risks every once in a while. So I was in a men's group recently. I've always had a group of men I hang out with at least once a week on a regularly scheduled time. The number one epidemic in our time is male loneliness. Fortunately, with all the problems I have in my life, that's one problem I don't have is loneliness. And it's because I've always put big rocks in my calendar that everything else has to revolve around. One of them is I have a Thursday morning meeting with a bunch of guys, and it's really, really solid. I have other meetings with guys as well that are just yesterday I had a little happy hour with some other guys I hunt with and have ridden motorcycles with and all that stuff. So it's just really, really important to me. And in this most recent meeting, a guy was talking about massive pain point that he went through. And I just felt there was something sacred about to happen as I asked him to recap for us his Thanksgiving. And I pulled out my phone and I just set it on the table, really not doing it for a podcast. I did it because he was going to go deep into a very painful story in his life. And I knew about 2 or 3 guys wanted to be there who were in our group and weren't going to be there. So my thought was, I'll just send him this file. I wasn't thinking podcast at all. And what do you know? We're going to try it as a podcast. This is with a previous guest on The Aggressive Life. His name is Nick Spiker. Yes, Nick Spiker. Talk about action adventure heroes, which we did last week with Kim Taylor Foster. You know, Nick Spiker, the greatest action figure hero name ever. Nick Spiker. You can't say Nick Spiker without grimacing and being angry. Nick Spiker. Anyway, this is my buddy Nick Spiker. He talks about what took place, and it pushed me, and it's going to push you. In the last full week of 2022, I want to push you out of your comfort zone. Let's be very clear. I'm going to tell you what I want you to hear right now. I'm not going to tell you all of it, but I'll tell you what I want you to hear right now. There are certain transcendent values that if you don't choose to order your life around, you will get crushed. There's certain things about the way life just works that you cannot ignore. And if you do ignore, you do so to your peril. Nick has an unbelievably painful thing he's going to tell us about. And the reason why he was able to get through it is because there's one of the many principles you're going to hear in a story, this idea of you reap what you sow. He had planted seeds in relationships in other areas of his life that when crisis came calling, he had relationships to draw from. He had assets to draw from. He had people to draw from. And that's how he got through this crisis. That's part of how it had a happy ending. All you need to know right now to get started is that Nick, his wife Nikki, and their kids, they're getting ready to leave for a much-needed vacation to Rosemary Beach when their 5-year-old, Emerson, started feeling bad. We'll pick up the story there. Let's get to breakfast.
All right, Lord, thank you for Nick and bringing him here and giving him a story to tell, a story that we know has a positive ending. So teach us through him today, help us to learn from their experience, and we thank you for your goodness and what you've done. Thank you for this food and your generosity. Amen.
Amen. So, take us back to that. Take a walk through it.
So, the way we typically do is we typically leave on Saturday. My in-laws leave with the girls on Friday, and we meet on Saturday night in Rosemary. So Thursday night, Emerson came home, and she was like, another lesson learned. Like, man, just like for me, you guys probably do this as good dads. Like, you don't write off what your kids tell you. So she came home Thursday night and was like, I told my teachers that my neck hurt when I walked today. And we were like, our house looked like the night before, like Home Alone, the night before, where they're just like scrambling. That's what our house looked like, right? We're like scrambling to get ready. So we're like, all right, fine. You probably just slept wrong. Like, and she, at like 5:30 that night, she fell asleep on the couch, which like, she has high energy, right? She's fine. So Friday morning, she woke up, she had popped the fever overnight. Second lesson is like, as one of the things I don't do that I learned in this is like, I historically don't trust my gut as a dad. Like, I'll default. Like, if I feel something, I'll be like, hey, should we do this? And if my wife's like, no, I think we should, I'm like, all right, your mom, you know better. So Friday morning, I was like, hey, I don't think Emerson should go with your parents. Let's take her in today. Just like, let's get this taken care of before we go on vacation. My in-laws were disappointed that Emerson wasn't going to go. Becca was disappointed that Emerson was going to go with us. She was disappointed she wasn't going to go with. So I get out of the shower, and Nikki's like, hey, we're just going to give her some Avo. She's going to go. She'll be fine. Which, hindsight, that sounds ridiculous, but at the time, she like had a 100-degree fever and some sore throat pains. You're fine. So they go about their way. Into Friday night, they stay at the hotel. They're like, yeah, she popped the fever again overnight. Gave her Tylenol. She's fine. So we get in the car and we drive down. It was glorious, like 12-hour drive. My son, you can judge me as a parent, like he said probably 50 words the entire time. Like Nikki and I hadn't talked to each other in 3 weeks, so we were catching up the whole time. Like, so we roll into Rosemary, and it's like, this is gonna be amazing. This was kind of our end of a crazy season. And the way the house is there, when you pull up out front, they're all windows, so you can see in and everything. So I look in, and like Kennedy comes running out to me, of course, and Anderson has all the energy. I look in, and she's like watching a show, and like doesn't greet us. She's like there. So we walk in, and we're like, all right, we're gonna get everything unpacked, and then we're gonna settle in for dinner. So I walk over, I give her a kiss. I just had this like, she looks terrible. Like she's like ghost white, no energy. All right, it's fine. So we go like, unpacking stuff. We get everything unpacked, and like go over. I'm like, hey, it was like 5 o'clock, and she's like, can I go to bed now? Wow. What? Like what? So hey, why don't I carry you up to our room? You put on a show and you can just like chill. So I carry her up. She had a turtleneck on, so I just kind of holding her, and I lay her down on the bed, and she's like, can I put my pajamas on? I'm like, yeah. So I like take the turtleneck on, and it's literally like she had no neck. Like it's just like swollen out to her shoulder, like red, and she couldn't move it. So that's what I was like. She was just stuck in this position, and she was like ghost white. So I'm just like, oh shit. Hey, Nikki, like come in here, and Nikki walks in and is like, all right, we gotta go. Like later on, Kennedy was like, I didn't even know you guys left. Like you just left. So we're like, find an urgent care. So now on like level 1 to 10, we're at like 3. It's like, okay, she's got something, we'll get an antibiotic, we'll be fine. We walk into this urgent care, and they're like, we're checking in, and the doctor and nurse come out, and they're like, I'll never forget, they open the door, and we're standing there, and the doctor goes, oh, you're going to the hospital. And I was like, what? He's like, okay, it's 45 minutes away. You need to get in the car. You need to drive there now. So we're kind of like a punch in the face moment. Like, so we fly down the 30A to this hospital. And like as soon as we walked in, we were just like, "This is bad. This is a bad deal." It's Florida on a Saturday night at an ER, and this guy
at a beach hospital.
This guy walks in like immediately. We're at like a level 5 caution. We check in like, immediately behind us. This guy walks in who is like very clearly not just drunk. Like he was just being belligerent, like yelling at the nurses, yelling at the doctors, like rampaging around the lobby. So I'm like full dad mode, like all right, like
we're gonna punch this guy in the face.
Yeah, like what are we doing?
Right.
But fortunately, like get her back, and it didn't feel. The what was probably right. It was just the how. It's like, all right, it's not a children's hospital. So they're like, okay, we're going to test her for strep, for COVID. We're going to do a CAT scan. She's got to get an IV. We need to get her on antibiotics. We're going to test her we're going to blood work, all the things. She's 5. And like at children's, at least what we experience, there's like a language. It's like going to a pediatric dentist, right? It's like, hey, just going to do a little. Yeah. And so these nurses are walking in like, all right, we got to get her a CT scan. Let's go. Wait. Hold on, like what's a CT scan? And what are we doing? Like, all right, no, we just got to go. Like, all right, go back, get the CT scan done, come back, get the IV in her, draw the blood. That causes now we're at like level 7 panic, but so we're like Nikki and I are sitting there like, okay, what are we gonna do? Like, they're still like, can we get a vacation out of this? So they come in. The moment we thought we were gonna, the doctor came in.
Like that's the other subtext here. It's not just praise for my kid. You've been, personal crisis, if you will, just worn out.
Yeah.
Like I need this. So
this was our like, light at the end of the tunnel.
Right.
We've been talking about it for 2 months. I'm telling you guys, like, traveling a ton. Like, this was our like reset, marriage reset, family reset. So we get back to, the doctor comes in. And he's like, great news. Like she tested positive for strep. So I think you're probably just gonna do some antibiotics. And I think like we just need to make sure everything else clears and we're all good. So we're like, okay. They had her on pain meds at the time. She had calmed down. Still looked terrible, but all right. Maybe she doesn't get to go to the beach tomorrow. Maybe it's 2 days recovery, but one of us can stay at home. My in-laws are there. They don't like to go to the beach anyway. And like 2 minutes later, that was the nurse, I guess. The doctor came in and was like, okay, so she tested positive for strep. We're like, yeah, so what's the plan? She's like, well, there is a massive amount of infection and swelling around her lymph nodes that are impacting her airways and potentially causing problems with her neck that we're really concerned about. So just as flatly as she could, she goes, so we're going to do IV level antibiotics. You guys are going to be here for 3 to 4 days. I'm like, what? And this room was the size of this table. Like, there's a chair and the bed. And we're like, and then she leaves. It's like, so you just get comfortable. You're going to be here 3 or 4 days. Like, oh, okay. All right. So it's like brain scramble mode. Okay. Like 3 hours later, so now it's like 10:30, 11 o'clock. They weren't letting her eat or sleep because they thought she might have to surgery. So now she hasn't eaten, she hasn't slept, she's in pain. So now we're reaching like, she's crying. Now like, I feel like dad mode is now on like, oh, okay, we just got to get out of here. Like this is bad news. So they come in and they're like, okay, so here's what's going to happen. You're going to get in an ambulance and you're going to drive, we're going to drive her to some city with a P that I always forget. Anyway, so Florida city you would know.
Pensacola.
Good job.
I just figured out yours. So you were in Miramar.
Yeah, we were. Yeah, started in Rosemary. Now we're in Miramar.
Which is inland.
Yeah. Yep.
It's by the big mega mall.
You got it.
I know cities, both shopping centers. Got it.
Exactly.
So you got to go to Pensacola, which is a big drive north.
So now we're going to Pensacola, but now I'm going to drive there. I'm going to meet Nikki and Emerson, who are going to go in the ambulance. We're going to meet midnight, 1 o'clock.
Why there? Because there's a children's
hospital and an ENT doctor.
Got it.
So at that point in time, I'm like, all right, we'll be there for 2 days. Still got a vacation.
Yeah.
So I drive home to our house in Rosemary to like pack up to meet them at Pensacola. Giving Nikki's parents the update. It was really interesting. Like, at that point in time, I realized that Kennedy, our 10-year-old, thought Emerson was dying, and I hadn't. That did not resonate. because I'm just like flying around the house, and she's like, and all of a sudden, like, I can tell she's really upset. Hey, what's going on? She's like, is Emerson dying? I was like, oh, you've never seen anybody sick before. Like, I need to explain like what being in the hospital looks like. So, she's not dying, I don't think. So Nikki calls and is like, hey, there's no doctor and no room in Pensacola, so we're not going to Pensacola. Like, all right, it's 1 a.m. Like, where are we going? Like, well, we're waiting here. They think they're sending us to Birmingham, 4 hours north. What are you? Like, what? She's like, and there's no bed, so Nikki can't sleep. She's there. There's no, like, at least Pensacola was like a hospital. We're gonna have at least a bed to like lay down. There's no lay down space. So she's just like sitting in this chair waiting for an ambulance to come. So she's like, hey, you just like stay there. Hopefully, when you wake up at 6 o'clock, we'll be on our way to Birmingham. You drive to Birmingham. We'll be at Birmingham for 2 days, but then we can come back and we'll be okay. Still like hanging on to like one last hope.
You're like 5 days.
Yeah.
5 days.
Still get 5 days. Yeah. So I wake up at 5:30. And I'm like, all right, we're just gonna see where she is. So I call. She's like, hey, Emerson got worse overnight. And there's no ambulance that is willing to be on the road for 8 hours. They get paid by trip, not by distance.
Right.
So they said we could be here in this room for 2 to 3 more days until we get an ambulance. And now my wife is she is steady Eddie, and now she's crying. And so it was just like, so I wake my in-laws up. And I'm like, hey, I got to drive back out to the hospital, and there's a chance I go from there to Cincinnati. So like, and then Nikki called in the middle of that, and she's like, do you think we just need to go? I'm like, I think we might just need to go. So we're packing up. I'm like, hey, I'm just going to pack. I'm throwing everything I possibly can in the car in case I have to leave and you guys don't have enough space in your car to drive my 2 kids and all. So we're just like packing up a vacation house in 15 minutes, just like throwing it all. It's like, 6 in the morning, waking my kids up and telling them like, hey, vacation's over. Like now we're calling this. Like, sorry, vacation's over. So like that was terrible. I mean, first class terrible, but terrible.
But for kids, they don't understand.
No.
They're like,
they were crushed. I mean, they cared about their daughter, but they were like,
They weren't going to stay with her at home.
at this point, we felt that we got to like, this just needs to be it. And simultaneously, thank God. I mean, the night before, like, what are we praying for? And Nikki just casually was like, we need to know an ENT. We need either an ENT or we need someone at Children's. Like, those are the two things. We need to just get in contact with somebody at Cincinnati Children's. And the next morning, Nikki got a text from somebody who, the wife of somebody in my Tuesday group was like, hey, do you know Matt Smith? I'm like, no. Well, he's a pediatric ENT at Children's. Well, yeah, we would love to know him. So we texted. I've still never met this guy. Like, if he walked in, I would know. Nikki texts him. I don't know. I blew it. Hey, this is Nikki. Our son's at Kilgore. Your son's at Kilgore. Here's what's going on. Turns out we didn't know at the time. He was on vacation with his family. At 7 o'clock in the morning. He calls, like, immediately. 7:01. Hey, what's going on? Nikki's like, he was like, I love my job. I love to help people. This is not a burden to me. Do not apologize for calling. Like,
what a great guy.
I'm like,
Wow.
So,
Wow.
he like immediately was like,
Wow.
send me the CAT scan. Send me the information. Like, I'll send it. His partner who was on call here. I'm going to get to my partner. We'll look. Because we just didn't like, you never got a good feel from that hospital. So they got on there like, okay, like, it's bad. But his comment was, which I love, was like, I see this once a week. The place you're at may see it once every 2 to 3 years. Like, you need to be back here. We can care for. So okay, can we drive? Can she be off the antibiotic for 12 hours? Like, is swelling going to get worse? If swelling gets worse, do we have a plan? So the nurses in Florida were like shaming us. It was like, you're putting your daughter's life at risk. You're making a terrible decision. She's not going to make it to Cincinnati. What if you get in a wreck? What if there's traffic? Like what? Like you. So at some point,
The wreck was that room you were in.
Yeah, that's right. So then this like doctor who knew what he was doing comes in. One of the like funny but like, oh man, moments. He's like, all right, I think I have a plane that can take you to Cincinnati. Like, I've rallied a medical plane. They're gonna pick you up here, take you to Cincinnati. okay, like I'll drive 12 hours back by myself. We'll roll in, go to Children's. It's great. So that's all happening. They're getting the paperwork done, and he's on the phone with the doctor here at Children's. And we hear him. He's like, she says, "Hey, you have to tell them what this costs, and that there's a chance it's not covered." And he's like, "Oh," he's like, hand over the speaker, like, "Hey, this is going to be $40,000, and we don't know if this will be covered." And so we're like, "Well, okay. Is she going to die in the car? If she's going to die in the car, then of course we'll fly. If not, we'll drive." Like, does anybody have an opinion here? So then we called this doctor from Children's again. He was like, if it was my son, I'd get in the car and drive. And it was like, and then it was like Dukes of Hazzard exit. Like as soon as he said that, I was like, we're driving to Cincinnati, sliding through the side window. Like I'm out in the car.
Where's the short? Where's the short denim shorts?
Yeah, sorry. I'm like in the car. They're like packing up the CAT scan and getting Emerson ready.
Thank you.
And we're going. And so we get in the car. The nurses are like running out the information because they were like, she can't. We have to limit the time she's off the antibiotics. So as soon as we pull the IV, the clock starts.
Yep.
You got to be at Children's in 12 hours. So ready, go.
Great drive for you.
So it's like put a pull up on Emerson. We're only stopping for gas. So we just go. And so with the plan of, we knew there was Children's Hospital at Birmingham, Nashville. So those were our checkpoints along the way. Like, if we get to Birmingham and shit has hit the fan, we stop at Birmingham. Hopefully we get to Nashville. We get to Children's Hospital in Nashville, stop in Nashville. If we get to Louisville, man, we might just head on home. We just start driving. And I'm like, as somebody said, like, man, I can't believe you drove like 12 hours. My freaking wife sat in the back with a screaming, getting worse 5-year-old for 12 hours. Like, just like watching. I couldn't see it. At least I couldn't see what was going on. She was actively like, oh, hey, now there's this massive red thing that's growing across her face. Like, what? That's new. What do we do about that? So we get to Birmingham, and she is like screaming. And Nikki's like, the swelling is getting worse. And you just don't know, right? It's like, is she dying? Like, I don't know if she's dying. So we're like, all right, we're calling it. We're just going to Birmingham. And Nikki was like, she's very, back to the trust your gut thing. She's like very poignant moment for me. She's like, what do you want to do? Like, you make the call. I was like, I realize I'm not naturally wired. I feel like you guys are probably better like in the moment. Like, I'm going to pray for this meeting, or I'm going to pray for this thing right now. I don't do that. And she's like, all right, I'm going to just pray right now here in the moment. Like, God, what do you want us to do? It's like, all right, take a deep breath. I'm driving, not audibly, but like the first thought that came to my mind was like, get her home. And it's like, hey, Nikki, I don't know if this is the right call, but I feel like God wants her home. And so we just got to go. We just got to pedal down. We just got to go. So, all right, let's go. Fly past Birmingham. Like, oh God, did we just we got another 4 hours to Nashville. So we got to now bridge this 4-hour gap where you're in the middle of freaking nowhere, Alabama. Like in Tennessee. So she does okay. We get to outside Nashville, and now she's lost it. Like, the pain meds have worn off. Like, now we're just in full-blown meltdown mode. And
5 hours to go.
And so we're looking for the address of the Nashville Children's Hospital, calling like, hey, do you have a room? Do we need to go through the emergency department? So we're like, all right, I know God says she needs to be home, but man, we can't handle this anymore, and I think we might be killing our child. So like, even though it was like silly, even though I just 5 hours earlier heard God say like she needs to be home, it was like, all right, we gotta. So we call the nurse or the doctor. Nikki paged the doctor at Children's to say like, hey, because they were like, we'll have a room ready for you. We've got a plan. We've seen all the documents. We know, like, just get here and we'll do a great job today. Don't go through the emergency department. Come straight to ENT. And this doctor said, we call it, hey, we're going to go to Nashville. The swelling is now like doubled in size. This red thing is growing. She's screaming in pain. And she's like, you've got to get here. And the comment was, she was like, nothing is going to happen in the next 3.5 hours that is going to offset the care she's going to get here. You've got to get, like, just have a doctor be firm, like not like, well, I can't promise anything. Like, you need to be here. It's like, all right, like, here we go. So
It's really good.
3.5 hours of just awful.
3.5 from Nashville to here.
Yeah, I think it was. You're doing about 100.
It's a 5-hour drive.
The plan that I had was, even if we got pulled over, I'd be able to point in the back seat and be like, this is why. And then I'd be like, could I get an escort?
That's true.
Like, would you have any chance you would have driven to Cincinnati with your lights on? Like, it was like, all right, I think I can work through that. So, I mean, thank God we arrived at Children's. It was like, you guys saw a picture of the room. It was literally like, I felt like we had arrived in heaven. From what we had done, we like walked in, we were checked in already, and we like walk into this room. She has now not slept or eaten for 24 hours. So she is an unhappy 5-year-old. And we put her down on the bed, and like the doctors come in and we're like, hey, here's the story. And we like look over, and she is sound asleep.
Wow. Just on her own.
Yeah, we're like, that's where you were supposed to be, like that bed. Like, you were supposed to be right there. And it's like, immediately, doctors come in and they've got a plan. Like, there's no like, well, we don't know. It's like, IV, here's the antibiotics we got her on. And it's like, that room is freaking better than 80% of the hotels I've ever stayed in. So that night, I left at like 1, and she was sleeping. It was all like, we were like, okay, we're here, did it. So that was Sunday night. Monday was, it was still bad, but we got an assessment. Hey, the strep caused a lymph node. We got infection in her neck, and got to be on the antibiotics. But we're just going to monitor. Maybe we monitor for 3 to 4 days, maybe 5. We don't know. And it was just like, if she doesn't react quickly, we could do surgery. But it was like that's worst case scenario. Okay. So Monday was kind of like, we're just kind of hanging out in the hospital. She was fine. She had all kinds of pain meds. So we hung out all day, all night. There was no like cause for alarm. I went home at like 1 o'clock that night.
Slammed alcohol that day?
What's that? No, that wasn't. We didn't have it then. It didn't come till afterwards, which was a funny story.
The time when you need alcohol.
Yeah, I know.
Right.
I did. That's like
and you would never be judged for having alcohol. That's right then.
I would have. Yeah, it would have been a heavy pour. So I'll fast forward with this then. So at night I go to sleep, 1 o'clock, wake up at 6. They do their rounds at 6. So I call Nikki. I'm like, hey, what, do you want me to bring you to Starbucks? And again, for only the second time the entire sheet is crying, and I can hear like chaos in the background. And I'm like, hey, what is going on? And she's like, they've got to do surgery. They don't know when. Now she can't eat again. She can't take pain meds, and she can't drink because they got to prepare for surgery, and they don't know when the surgery is going to be. And the anesthesiologist is in here. Like, you got to get here. I'm like, oh shit! So I'm like, fly to the hospital, walk in, and like one of those moments where it's like there's like 13 people in the room, and she overnight had gotten way worse. And I could tell. I walked in, I was like, what is? Every time I thought things were going to get better, they got worse. It was like, what? And so I'm like, I feel like it's close to getting in a fight. It's not my wiring. I walked in this, I can't. Nobody is like telling me what's going on, and Emerson's screaming, Nikki's crying. I'm like, what is happening? And this anesthesiologist doing his job, like, hey, are you Dad? I'm like, yeah. He's like, okay, so what's going to happen is we're going to put her, and here are the risks to anesthesia. There's a chance that we have to intubate her, and if we intubate her, then we've got to go over to the NICU or the ICU, and like all the worst case scenarios. The way he's saying it is like, this is what's going to happen. I'm like, hey, hold on. Like, I have no idea what's going on right now. Like, stop it. Like, what is happening? She's like, we're doing surgery, all the... Okay. Let's go to him. Yes, I got to tell you this. You have to hear this. I know they're great at each other. I know this sucks to hear, but I have to tell you. Okay, when's surgery? Well, you guys are an add-on, so we don't know. But she can't eat, drink, or sleep until this happens. Like, and no pain meds. So I'm telling you, that was 6 in the morning. She had surgery at 4:30.
Oh wow!
I mean, it was just like she had now she was aware of what was going on. For so long, it was like she just wasn't aware. She had this moment, I'm like, just hugging her, and she's like screaming, crying. She's like, why am I like this? Like, you know where you are and what. And it was just the best we got is she went, like, all lights off, everybody sitting still, making no noise. And if you made any noise, she would lose it. So it was just like hours of like, you know, somebody would try to come in, but not right now, because she's not crying right now. So then, like by 1, she had lost it. It was game over. It was just like handle the pain, and so finally at like 2 o'clock, they're like, all right, surgery's at 4:30. We're gonna start getting you ready. Like, okay, at least we have like a time. So the surgeon's coming in, explaining what's going to go on. And again, they did an awesome job. Okay, great. Actually, it's going to be a little earlier. We're going to get you down to the pre-op room now. So roll down to the pre-op room. Come in. Hey, we're going to come in, give her some medicine to get her to sleep. But they mistimed it. It wasn't ready. So we're in this. I mean, now we're in this room. This is like, it is literally this size. There's just a bed, and she is screaming her face off. And so we were there for an hour and a half in this tiny box. I think I told you, like the scene that will live in my head is like the pain had gotten so bad for her now that it was like streams of pain. So I'm like praying, like hands on, I'm like praying. I open my eyes and her eyes would like bug out of her head, and that's like preceded the shot. Just like, I'm like, oh my God, like I can't do anything about it. Like, this girl is just in intense pain, and I can do nothing about it. And it was like, when are they going to come? He was like pacing around the room, like this felt like we were there forever. And then came in, gave her that magic medicine that, like, just like, you just watch her, she's like screaming, crying, and then it's like, whoop. And he's like, I feel great. This is amazing. They must do that with kids, because I can't imagine them taking a kid off for surgery without that. Like, she would not have left us in that without being
magic medicine. Is it injection, like, or is it what is it?
Through the IV. Yeah, they've got her. Yeah, just put it. Yep, and it's like 15 seconds.
So that's not available over the counter then?
No, yeah. It's like, but she went from literal like screaming, crying to 15 seconds later, just like, hello. So she left. We're like, oh. Okay, now I'm just gonna go pray that surgery goes well. So we get done. I'll be done. The cool part of the story. We get done. They call us back an hour and a half later. The surgeon's like, okay. The surgeon is like, so we made the call to take her to surgery, and you guys agreed. He's like, we didn't do anything. He said we went in through a scope to the back of the throat, made an incision. Our thought was we were going to see infection in the back of the throat, that we could get some bacteria, grow it in the lab, then identify the right antibiotics. Right now she's on a general antibiotic. We want to get her on a very specific antibiotic for what is causing this infection. And we didn't get it. He's like, definitely the lymph node is like crazy. So I was like, but we didn't do anything for that. He's like, we didn't drain any fluid. I didn't think you needed to go, because that would have been external puncture. He's like, so sometimes the opening up of the throat helps. He's like, but there's nothing we did that is going to help. Again, one of those like, okay. Like, go see her. She's kind of pre-op or post-op groggy. Get her back up to the room. She kind of wakes up. Well, now she can eat and drink. And like, I notice she looks better. Like, and swelling is down, redness. Like, they do this thing. You guys have all probably do it. They draw the circle around the rash to know if it's growing or shrinking. So it had always been growing. And every time they come in, like, shit, it's not shrinking. It's like, oh, it's starting to shrink. So we have these a couple hours, like what is happening? Like, why is she getting better? And so the doctor comes in at like whatever 10:30. We're like, hey, she seems better-ish. And we're like, thank you. And he's like, I'm a doctor. I'll take all the credit. He's like, nothing we did in there is causing this. And he's like, now, we did, like, the anesthesiologist gave her a steroid, so that is helping. He's like, but that's going to wear off in 24 hours. So he's like, that's why I wouldn't have done a steroid. It muddies the waters. I don't know whether she's getting better or not. So overnight, it might not be pretty. I'm like, Okay. Go home, same thing. 6 in the morning, I'm calling on the way. I'm like, hey, how's it going? She's like, she's amazing. Like, she's the happiest kid you're going to see. I'm like, but this is worn off. And he's like, the doctor doesn't know. Like, the doctor doesn't know why she's doing better. Like, okay, well, like, see, so we like show up, and she's like bouncing around the room.
Oh, wow.
Like, but I mean, like, back eating pancakes, and who is this child? Like, this child, like, 12 hours ago was screaming in pain. And so the doctor comes in, and I'm like, hey, what's the... And he's like... Yeah. He said, this is not a phrase doctors use very often. I don't know. It's like, I don't... It's like, maybe she's on the antibiotics longer, but it's only been about 6 hours longer. It doesn't cause... Maybe that relieves some pressure in the back. But like, I don't have a good answer for you. It was like, I have always not... I've never been a part of the story. I think everybody's had the story where the doctor said, I don't know. It's like, hey, doctor, I don't know. The doctors really say, I don't know. It was like, for this guy, I was telling somebody the story on Tuesday night, hey, you know what's interesting about children specifically? Like, not to exaggerate, it's like, those are like top 10 doctors in the country. Like, if they're there, they're not like, like, they're not paid to say, I don't know. They're paid to say, like, this is exactly what we did. This is the outcome. It's like, so for that guy to say, I don't know. I'll take the credit, but I don't know. And that literally, that was Wednesday, and they were like, hey, it's probably going to be 5 days of this like specific antibiotic that we're trying. So just like settle it. You're doing Thanksgiving here, probably doing the weekend here. Like, okay, fine, she's better. We can handle hospital as long as there's no like screaming. And now we kind of know what's going on. And like Wednesday night, they had infectious diseases come in to look at the rash and to see like, hey, what could be causing this? Make sure there's no staph. And the woman, like the doctor in passing, was like, I think you guys are vulnerable. And like saying that to me is one thing. I'm like, okay, you said it. Saying that to my wife is like saying like, what time will you be home? I'll be home at 5:30. Like, why was it 5:35? Like, I don't understand. So as soon as she said, I think you guys are going home tomorrow, I was like, you shouldn't have said that. Now, like,
You shouldn't have said that.
my wife's like packing the room up, right? Like, yeah, the bags are at the door.
Goal-oriented.
This
is goal-oriented.
All right, we are leaving tomorrow. It's like, okay. And so Thursday at like noon, the doctor came in and was like, there is no reason for you guys to be here. Like, she can be on an oral antibiotic now. She is clearly fine. The swelling is gone. The redness is gone. It's gone. I mean, it was inflamed red. It is gone. It's like, we monitor you from home. Like, you should have Thanksgiving dinner at home. Like, all right. So bags were already packed. So it was like, whip around, get the car, and we were home by 4:30 on Thursday, and she has been. They were like, oh, this antibiotic can cause stomach issues. You know, if anything happens, if she swells up again, bring her back. Like, okay.
And you have no idea who got you the meal. You got
so we show up. Wednesday, Nikki's like, she had gone home. She's like, hey, did you like? Why did you order Domo Thanksgiving? That's ridiculous. It's like, well, I'm smarter than that. I know you wouldn't appreciate that. I did not order Domo Thanksgiving. Like
Gomez?
Domo, like Soto and Boca, the same
Domo,
guys.
yeah.
They're like takeout. They did a Thanksgiving. I'm still sure. Whoever did that, thank you. A, it's wildly expensive. B, they sold out 3 weeks ago. Like, because I follow them. It's all gone for Thanksgiving. Like, still, we to this day don't know.
Yeah, definitely.
And it's this like, amazing Thanksgiving. So we ate.
That's amazing.
Like, we ate
There was a Thanksgiving meal ready for you when you got home.
all we had to do is throw it in the oven, heat it up.
Oh my!
And it was everything. It wasn't like it was like full blown.
That's amazing.
Oh,
I asked Nick to just give us a deep dive, so thank you.
Sorry about that.
No, you don't have to be done either. We've still got 15 minutes. We'll come back to you. But I just want, we want to hear more and more. But I was thinking, it was a resume. I thought, in moments of crisis or intensity, is when you find out a number of things. You find out what you're made of. You reap the benefit of all that you've done. So, Nick learned that he was, he learned that his family is very, very resilient and able to deal with really difficulty. And he said, these great things started happening. They kept happening. Hey, you know why they kept happening? Because he freaking shows up here every week when he can. He goes a Tuesday, he has a this, he's serving. So he had this safety net that was built because of that, not because he personally knows the pastor. I had as much interaction with you guys did. He had a safety net. You reap what you sow. These things that are in the Bible are not there to give us more to-do lists. They're there because they give us a life that works. And then the third thing that I was so inspired by was like, so many things that I'm really passionate about. That 3 days was a petri dish for, right? I'm passionate about men being leaders. I mean, you said Nikki deferred to you. You said, what do you want? You said that you felt like, you really stepped up, man. You stepped up. You're in the car. I said, I can't imagine the stress of that. Like, am I going to go to children's, and my child dies on the way? Am I going to pull off here in Nashville? Or am I going to... so unbelievably stressful. And anybody who doesn't want responsibility and doesn't want to be a man will just do whatever their wife says. And sometimes the wife knows best. She knows best. And so she does. But like when she said that to you, you're like, that was a massive one. Generosity, the whole thing of generosity with the meal, service, people that guy's serving you, and you guys serving the crossroads. Therefore, you got a whole people coming in, walking in.
Yeah, I'm like, wait, when he said he served, I was like, this week? Like recently, after all that,
every week.
You didn't go.
Yeah, right.
Right. We just had.
Right.
Everyone's always looking for any reason to take time off.
And the other one too was the snippets of fun that were in there, the blessing, the alcohol coming there. It's like we have to recreate. We have to have fun.
I wish you guys could have been in that.
Whenever you can have fun. You got to have fun. So that was in there.
That picture I said. The reason I took that picture is we had been through the shit. That was Wednesday. Tuesday, we were not 24 hours from her screaming. And I sent it to Andrew first because I was like, I did not realize the backlash here. So my whole family came. And that room is, it's nice. There was a basketball game on. So I went down to get some water. Come back, we had brought our speakers. We got Christmas music going. My father-in-law and my dad had found the bourbon, so they poured the bourbon. My kids are decorating the Christmas tree, and I was like, hey, here's the problem. They're never leaving. It was like they were there for 6 hours. Like, is there more bourbon over there?
Who was there
my father-in-law and my dad. Just they were at a bar. They
were at a bar.
Free drinks, games on the TV. Kids are. But it was like this cool. 24 hours ago, this room was dark. Yeah. With a screaming child. And now we are decorating Christmas trees, having drinks, full family. What a freaking turn. It was my Christmas holiday movie moment. Look at this. How did we get here?
You were talking about something that's important to take out of this thing. We kind of stopped and redirected the conversation. But the reap what you sow thing, it's a heavy, heavy thing. Yeah. And it's a perfect example. And so we shouldn't just blow over that into other conversations. The reason being is, and it just kept resonating before when I sent you that message from there. But him just saying the part too, and then you saying the part about the doctors, okay.
No, the other one. I'm sorry, prayer, the miracle. That was the other one. That was it. That was it. Prayer works. It freaking works.
Yeah,
that's in there. The whole thing. It's a microcosm of every value I have.
I think for me, I had many moments. And yes, we've all been through crisis before. Of thinking what a terrible emotion it would be if you didn't have anyone to tell.
That's what I've been sitting here thinking for 5 minutes.
You picked up your phone, like, I want to ask, like,
My mom,
my mom, my
That's it.
dad, you know, but like, just to be able to be like,
Wow.
That's the vast majority of the population. You know? It's a vast majority. That's why suicide keeps going up. That's why the mental illness isn't all just chemical stuff. It's downright lonely. That's the vast majority. Most people would be screwed. The pain and difficulty, that like real problems just cuts through the shit.
yeah,
So,
yeah.
how many followers I have on Facebook, who give a shit. How many people come to church, who cares? How many, you know, how much I have in retirement savings, who cares?
Yeah.
You know, that stuff goes, your way out of that crisis was your way to have a life of meaning. That's why you have a life of meaning. You've got those things that are always happening. That's why, part of why you're a positive guy, smiling, people want to be around you. You're getting fed by those things regularly. And then those things safety netted you.
We just got out of the Blessed Life series. That was a
Blessed life. Good word.
I think that you guys said, like, stop apologizing. You guys modeled it each. Like, the action, people take action. And even if that action is like actually praying, sending like actually like not prayer, but like I was just stunned by a point when and it's real, like when it's like this is crisis, just like the reaction that people took action. It's like people want. It's not like a burden for them to be like, yep, oh fine, yep, oh, fine. I guess I'll pray. It's like I'm praying. I want to be a part of this with you, like that.
Not like I'll do it, but like
another text message. It's like, so thank you for being a part of it, because I was thankful to have an outlet.
Yeah, you guys were in our prayers for certainly.
Dude.
But it also
You were loved and important.
it's from the giving side of that. It also feels good to want to pray for someone.
Yeah.
You know, because we're talking about the loneliness side of not receiving, or what if you have no one who's asking you for anything?
Oh wow.
Yeah, true.
So the fact that someone reaches out and is like, hey, you,
That's a good word.
Yeah.
can you pray for me?
Yeah.
That's a really good word too.
To pray for you.
Vulnerability. That's another one you can put on there. Yeah, right. You could have just stuffed that and kept that to your little family and just not brought your. No one had to know.
Yeah.
No one.
Yeah.
Well, you got blessed because you were vulnerable. And therefore you got alcohol.
Yeah.
Therefore you got domo.
Probably good. No one has
Domo.
probably good bourbon too.
Therefore you got a lead on the Mount Lookout. The Mount Lookout. I mean, you know, as guys we tend to like, no, I got this.
Wow.
I got this. I got this. No, you don't have this.
Yeah.
If you have this, you're not in any deep shit. You don't have this. So there again, there's another one, man. Way to go.
The fans win too. The Bengals win. It's not just the team that celebrates. It's all of us that sat at home and cheered them on and wore our stupid Bengals shirt.
Wow.
So that's how I felt when I heard your update. Our team won.
Wow.
So we here at The Aggressive Life, we don't want to just be another podcast that gives you information. We want to be a podcast that may lead to your transformation. That's what we want. For that to happen, you're going to have to do things that you hear here or someplace else that are right and close to the heart of God. So pick it. Pick it, whatever it is today. You got some great fodder to make New Year's resolutions. Say next year it's going to be different. Could be saying, reap what you sow. Here's some new habits I'm going to reap this year. Or I'm going to sow this year so I can reap something next year. Maybe that's what it is. Maybe it is the Bible. It actually leads to my life that works. I'm going to actually have a Bible reading plan. You cannot say this year, I'm going to read the Bible more. It doesn't work. You have to have a plan. Find a Bible reading plan. Make up your own plan. A chapter a day, 3 chapters a day, whatever. Have a plan. Do it. Maybe it's that you want to be a leader. Maybe it's you want to be generous. Maybe you want to actually serve somebody just as Nick was served because he had served others. Maybe you want Make sure you have more fun this year. Maybe it's you want to believe and you actually want to put prayer towards miracles, increasing the hit rate of miracles in your life. Maybe it's you just need to commit this year to tell some people what's going on in your life, to be vulnerable. When someone says, hey, how you doing? Maybe you're not going to have a group you're meeting with guys that you're going deep, or men or women you're going deep every week. But maybe it's you just make a decision when someone says, hey, how you doing? And you pause for a moment and you actually tell them. Or maybe you just tell them 10% of what's happening. But that's better than saying, good, I'm fine. Yeah, it's all good. Up and to the right, living the dream. Do something different this year. Make this year a year of meaning, and it will be if you do something different. That's called the aggressive life. We'll see you next year. Hey, thanks for listening. For all things aggressive living, why don't you head over to briantome.com. Find my new book, Move, a guide to get up and go forward, as well as articles and much, much more. And no matter where you listen to podcasts, why don't you take a second and leave us a rating, leave us a review. It really, really helps us drive new listeners to the show. We want to help as many people as possible, just like we may have helped you. We want to help others. So why don't you help us out? And if you want to connect, find me on Instagram at Brian Tome. Aggressive Life with Brian Tome is a production of Crossroads Church, Cincinnati, Ohio.